There is some definitive lag. So apologize there. If you heard the music twice, great song, by the way, because Fast Eddie is really awesome in his version of the Autumn Wind. If you heard it twice, there's some lag in my computer. That's why I look confused. I heard it twice. I don't know if y'all heard it twice. That's why there's a little bit of confusion. I got a lot of windows up, and that's probably another reason why there is some freaking lag. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. That might help. It might help. In fact, I'm doing it now. Yes, I got responding to a lot of my different, I'm on these pages, and I click a button and getting rid of some of these windows, not responding. So that's why I look confused. Although, I have a generally befuddled look on my face sometimes as well. Yeah. If I could show you, it says Google Chrome not responding. Hopefully I'm still here. Am I still here? Yeah, I hope so. Getting rid of all of these extra windows will help. Oh gosh. In case you missed it, today was Easter, the day of renewal for a bunch of religions. I'm Judeo-Christian, and I as a bit of inspiration, I do Easter. I had an Easter celebration with my son and my granddaughter. So again, hopefully the lag is not as bad. So I wish that. Before I do anything else, and I'll get to the comments in a minute, I want to make sure, because I got some guys backstage that are like, what the foxtrot is going on? That's why I have that look on my face. And even Daniel Chronicles would say, yeah, something's going on. I have the pleasure, and it was in my title line tonight, of having the two portions, the heads, the double-headed whammy of host for the Only Nation podcast, and that's Tom Jones, aka T3, and Heidi, who y'all know through the nights of when we do our ladies' night out with Peggy and Heidi. They're here tonight. We're talking Raiders, and we will talk other sports, but that's going to be in the second hour. So have your phone calls ready in hour 2, because they're going to be gone, and then you just got to deal with me. And happy Easter to everybody. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring them in. Bring in Tom Jones. God, it is slow. It is slow computer day. It is slow. Okay, I see Tom. I see Heidi. Do you see me?
We see you.
Hey, Jack. Hey, Heidi.
Yeah, again,
Hi, Tom. Hi, Jack.
I know. It was, like I said, I hope I could just see the I mean, when Daniel was like, dude, you look lost. And I was like, because did you guys hear the song again?
No, I only heard it once.
Yeah, it went through, and then I heard it again. And I was like, oh crap. So I got to reboot my computer after this, but not until we talk about some team. I feel I don't have my Las Vegas Raiders hat on. I see y'all have your Las Vegas Raiders. Let me find one. I don't know if I have a Vegas Raiders hat available. Let me find one. But in the meantime, I'm going to at least put an Oakland on. Okay, so there we go. I got my Oakland on. Okay, and we'll start with that. And again, I give to you Tom Jones and Kevlar Prom Dress of the Only Nation podcast. I'm very happy to have on my show, as confused as I looked. And so, folks, I'm gonna just let you run with it as I try to get rid of more windows, which might make it the speed up going a little bit better. Go ahead.
Well, Heidi and Jack, first of all, good evening, everybody. And then Heidi, happy Thanksgiving, happy Easter, as well as to Jack, happy Easter. I'm sporting my purple Fu Manchu tonight. You might wonder what that was, but I had some little mouth surgery this past week, so I had 2 teeth extracted. Of course, I'm sporting a nice little bruise here on my mouth. So people have called it the purple Fu Manchu. So I'm sporting that for at least another week or so, anyway. But Heidi, again, happy Easter, and hope you've had a good day. Jack as well.
Happy
Not
Easter,
bad.
Tom. It feels like it's been since Thanksgiving that we talked.
Maybe that's what it was.
Life has certainly gotten in the way, and we have not been able to get out any episodes recently, but that will be changing soon. So look for new episodes of the Only Nation podcast. And of course, on this dual episode with Ask Captain Jack. And it's a special edition with Jack and with Tom. And it's Jack's channel, so Jack gets top billing, of course.
Absolutely.
No. It's dual, and I couldn't be doing this without you. I couldn't look as confused without y'all here. Okay, so it's got to be dual. I got to deflect some of the stuff here, but yeah, it's great to have y'all both on. I'm gonna get through the comments as you roll through. Go ahead, folks.
Hey, Jack, how are your taxes coming along, by the way?
They are almost with all the paperwork that I needed to have done. I went through and did my Amazon stuff a couple minutes ago. Because I went through and I did all of the syndication, and I'm like, wow, I got a lot of Amazon here. So I had to find what I bought. So I did those which were related to me. I'm saying, oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, so all the stuff that's related is done. The thing I got to do next is go through my American Express card, which is literally for my travels. That's going to be easy because they actually divvy it out to everything that I spend. Once that's done, the wonderful Latinas are going to get about 130 different PDF files. And I'm going to say, do it. Do it. Do it.
Well, mine are already done. Mine are already paid. So yeah. I'm just sitting here fat and happy. Not too poor. They got some money from me, but not too much.
We weren't that lucky.
Yeah, no. I'm afraid.
That's the way it goes. Well, Heidi, as busy as we have been in our respective lifestyles and life things, a certain team that we know that's located out in the desert area in the middle of Nevada has been really busy.
Yes, the Las Vegas Raiders, they have been very busy since before the beginning of free agency. They made a certain move with a large statured player on their roster who is, after 9 years, no longer going to be on the team. And
did I miss
the Raiders.
Something?
Yeah, you did. You missed it. You were asleep. Derek Carr is no longer the quarterback for the Raiders.
That's why I was confused. Okay, so it said, that's why I was confused. Okay.
Yeah, so we have a new quarterback behind center for the Raiders. His name is Jimmy Garoppolo. He comes over from the 49ers on a 3-year deal of $67.5 million, and $34 million is guaranteed. His base salary for the next couple of years is lower than what Carr's would have been, $11.25 million per year, and his average salary will be around $24.25 million for the next 2 years, which for a starting quarterback is a good market value. Obviously, his durability leaves a lot to be desired and is a huge red flag, but he does bring familiarity with Josh McDaniels' system, and as well as a winning record. Granted, he's always had a really good defense around him, and he does have a winning mentality. And well, perhaps he's going to offer some intangibles that the Raiders have been missing in that position. So, any thoughts?
You know, when this happened, of course, when we last got together, I said that this was going to happen. I said that Jimmy G was the guy they're going to bring on. I didn't want it, but I said that was going to happen. Now, with all the moves they've made since then, I've kind of backed off a little bit. I still would not have done that if it had been me, but I don't feel as bad about it as I first did. And here's why. Jimmy G not only brings familiarity to the system, but I think bringing in the backup, bringing in a backup now. Of course, I was afraid when Stidham got away that we wouldn't really have anybody in place other than Garbers. But with Hoying now in the mix as a backup, at least we have a reliable something in place. This also leads me to believe that the Raiders are kind of freed up to not have to jump for a quarterback. Either to trade up in the back end of the first round or in the second round. All along, I've been saying they need to draft a defensive playmaker in the first round and then go with the quarterback in round 2. I no longer see that now. And when we start talking about the draft, I'll tell you how things have projected out. Yeah, Matt Marimich, I got my draft hat. I got it this past week, so I figured I'd go ahead and sport that today. It's really, really cool. So if you'll notice, and somebody told me this earlier, if you'll notice, Raiders is across the front, but the Raider patch is on top of the Raiders lettering. And we've got a question on that. And Mark Davis had actually issued a statement and said nothing is going over top of the shield. So the shield itself has to maintain. So the shield is what it's all about. And so when they put that hat together, that's exactly what they had in mind. Well, actually, getting back, though, to Jimmy G.
I got a question real quick, Tom.
Yes, absolutely.
Are other draft hats for other teams, is the name over their logo then?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't, to be honest, looked at other draft hats, but I think some of them have different designs, but I'm not really sure, to be honest with you.
And we don't care what their hats look like.
I'll look at that while I explain. Well, I was just asking because again, you made the point, and if that is the point that there's nothing over the shield, which is agreeable, then it leads me to believe, just because I'm a nosy SOB, that most of the draft hats every year they all look the same, you know, and they all look the same in how they're put together. But if the Raiders have to show over the name, that leads me to believe that the others have the name over their logo. I'll find out while you're, Tom. Again, I apologize for busting in on you, brother.
No, absolutely.
I'll look while you guys do your.
Robert Pena beat you to the punch. He's singing my song here. Well, he's got the unusual to be known by anyone. There you go. We got that. But again, I don't feel as bad about the Jimmy G situation as I did before. Yeah, the Crockle's black hole yet she's a lady. There we go. There's a million of them. There's a million.
And I'm going to say something very unpopular with Raider Nation is I like the Brian Hoyer signing.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
I think I called him. I think I called him Hoying earlier. Hoying.
Yeah,
was Bobby Hoying
did.
was way back in the 2000s. That was a Gruden guy.
You did.
Back in 2000.
I was letting it slide until I was gonna say. By the way, we signed Hoyer instead of Hoying, but go ahead. Yeah. And so one less down. No, you're good.
I'll blame it on the mouth. The mouth.
But
I
would have rather kept Stidham, but in his place, I actually like the Hoyer signing, and I know that the great majority of Raider Nation does not like it, but he's a serviceable backup. He is somebody that if you put into the game when the backup goes down, and let's face it, it's Jimmy G, so he will go down. Quarterback will go down, and he will go down hard and break a nail. He'll be able to step in and actually give the Raiders a shot at winning.
But you know,
And
Hoyer's going to be a good quarterback coach as well. Now, I've also heard that he might become a coach after this season, or maybe 2 more seasons. But he's has a lot of familiarity with the Patriots system, with Josh McDaniel's system. But I think he's going to be a really, really good quarterback for the up and comers. I believe that the Raiders will at least draft one quarterback. They may draft two, or they may draft a quarterback and then bring in an unsigned free agent. So you could have, starting out, as many as 5 quarterbacks in camp. Now, depending on what they do with Garbers, but we'll see.
Actually, if I might intercede, only because I got some pertinent information. I got a New England fan at work that knows all about that organization, and Hoyer was on his way, or was basically cast aside in New England because he went head to head with the hoodie, basically pissed him off, and they were actually contemplating having Hoyer be their quarterback's coach this year, but the Raiders reached out and had him come in as the backup in that role. It's quite possible that he might start the season as the backup quarterback, pending somebody else picking up the system, and then he might slide into that job mid-season, if not before, because there was talk of Hoyer having that role in New England. He pissed off the hoodie. Actually, Bill O'Brien wanted him as their quarterback's coach, but he actually got another season out of it with McDaniel. So it's one of those things where it can be like almost a seamless transition into the role where he's an on-the-field quarterback's coach while being suited up.
Yeah. Well, but as we are all afraid, he might be pressed into a starting role very, very soon. I'm hoping that Jimmy G at least makes it 3 or 4 games in, but with his injury history, everybody's kind of rolling the dice on that, and we're just kind of worried, well, what's going to happen, and when is it going to happen?
And who knows? He might surprise us. I mean, there's always a chance that he can make it, but
Hey,
I'm not going to put any money on it.
Josh Jacobs went the whole season, and of course, we thought he got dinged up the first couple of seasons. He was with the Raiders, and of course, when the 2022 season came around, we thought, well, some of these other guys are getting dinged up too. Josh Jacobs is bound to go down to injury at some point, and he didn't. He really, really played hard and played well and lasted the whole year. Now, I'm hoping that magic will rub off on Jimmy G, and he's going to be able to do the same thing.
And that brings us to a couple of other moves that the Raiders have made. They did place the franchise tag on Josh Jacobs. They re-signed running back Amir Abdullah and offensive lineman Brandon Parker. Whatever. And the Raiders traded tight end Darren Waller to the New York Giants in exchange for a late 2023 third-round pick. So, not moves that I'm thrilled with. I'm glad that Josh Jacobs is staying in the fold. I really want them to get a long-term deal done with them. I don't see it happening because it's the Raiders and the Raiders are going to mess it up. But, does my spirit seem a little crushed? My spirit feels crushed. My spirit feels crushed this offseason.
I think you're probably with a lot of people who feel the same way. I mean, I think a lot of people genuinely felt let down after the 2021 playoff year, and the 2022 just turned out to be not so great.
I know Heidi's getting off this. Just the little that turns out this wide. Just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny. There you go.
Brandon Parker, come on.
Brandon Parker. Well, remember, Brandon Parker didn't play last year.
Yeah, because he got injured. He got injured in the first preseason game, and was out.
Some people would say he hasn't played in a couple of years.
He's played in like 5 years.
No, he's played.
He's been a turnstile.
He's played horribly.
Yes, that's true.
He's played horribly. He's played horribly.
Okay, and then let me go through the mid-level roster moves for the Raiders, and this is going to be a mouthful, so just listen
Take a
up.
deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Deep breath. Wide receiver Jacoby Myers was signed away from the Patriots. Yes, he is the one that threw the ball to Chandler Jones. Just throwing that out there. And receiver Philip Dorsett was also added. And receiver Keelan Cole was re-signed. Also re-signed on the defensive side was safety Roderick Teamer and interior defensive lineman Jerry Tillery, which I actually like.
Yeah.
Defensive back Brandon Facion, who played for the Raiders in 2021, was brought back, and on the offensive side, the Raiders re-signed Jermaine Illuminor, fullback Jacob Johnson,
Right.
and backup lineman Ronis Grassu. Back to the defensive side, the Raiders signed safety Marcus Epps, linebackers Curtis Bolton and Robert Spillane, defensive end Jordan Willis, and safety Jacon Johnson. Jacon.
Thought it was Jaquan.
Close
I
enough.
think it's Jaquan. Yeah.
Jaquan Johnson. In a bit of a head scratching moves, the Raiders released long snapper Trent Sigg after signing his replacement, 3-year veteran Jacob Bobenmeyer. Not very happy with that move.
Actually, from what I know of Bobenmeyer, he's stronger. He's got a lot of experience with the new special teams coach who does come from Denver. The only issue is that Sieg and our punter and kicker had a wonderful trifecta together. There was a great what do you call it? Not spirituality, but a great synthesis of all three of them there. So taking Sieg out of the equation is going to hurt a little bit, but to be honest, the talent is with the kids with the legs. So if you get an upgrade in the guy that's snapping for you without the penalties that Sieg had gotten last year, it's an upgrade. It's just going to take a little bit to get the gel there. But yeah, I understand that, Heidi. But if you're going to say, hey, of your special teams triangle, and you keep the punter and you keep the kicker, who actually have all the talent, and you let go of your long snapper, providing he doesn't totally suck, which he doesn't, you just move on.
Sig had a few too many penalties, and that made him expendable. I'm hoping that Bobenmoyer can practice a lot with snapping back toward a place kicker, and that A.J. Cole's not going to be nearly as busy as he was last year.
Agreed.
I just don't like the idea, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's just my philosophy on it. But additionally, the Raiders also said goodbye to Cleve Farrell, who goes to San Francisco, Matt Collins, who's headed to Atlanta, and Jarrett Stidham, who now goes to Denver to back up Russell Wilson.
No, he goes there to give up the whole playbook. That's the reason why he was seriously. That's the reason why he was signed. And he's a decent quarterback. And if Wilson doesn't have any, if he doesn't get better, you'll see Stidham play. And actually, the Broncos are very excited about the fact that they actually have a backup that is very capable. But the reason why he was signed is he's got the playbook up here. They're saying, well, you don't ever leave with your playbook. But if the guy's been in the system for so long, I'm sure they said, by the way, Jared, here's your contract. And after you sign the contract, here's about 150 to 200 sheets of paper. We want you to sign. We want you to go and put out every friggin' play that's in McDaniels' playbook. Thank you.
Well, Stidham's got an injury history as well. Now, he only played 2 games with the Raiders last year, small sample size, not counting the preseason, obviously. But of course, they only played at half speed then. But, Stidham has an injury history too. So it probably is not bad that Stidham wasn't backing up Jimmy G, because then you had 2 injury-prone quarterbacks who you rested everything on. So maybe that wasn't the worst thing in the world. But I see a comment in there about the Raiders possibly trading, moving up to number 3 with the Cardinals and to get Hopkins or Anthony Richardson. I'm not a big Anthony Richardson fan. I think that maybe the Colts might trade up to number 3 and get their quarterback, and I think that they might take a gamble on Anthony Richardson because he does have a lot of upside as far as athletic talent goes. But Jack, you and I have had this discussion. I know you're a Gator and you're not a real big Richardson fan, and I'm not either. I don't think that he is going to be a franchise type player. I think he's dynamic. Certainly, he's an athlete, but I don't see him being the guy to lead a team for many years down the road.
Actually, and I do think that there, Tom, but my stance on him has gotten a little better when I look at the fact that the reason why I didn't want the Raiders to draft Richardson is because with Richardson, you got to have he's going to need at least 2 or 3 years to groom.
Right.
Right.
Okay. His upside is like a rocket ship. He's got the most upside of any of the quarterbacks in the draft. He can run. He's got a bullet for an arm. He's actually smart, and he has charisma, unlike the last SEC quarterback that we drafted number 1 overall. I can't remember what his name was, but he's a better quarterback than those people. Think of a Cam Newton with a bigger, stronger arm and can run you over and run like a 4.40. Okay, he's got a lot of upside. The problem with him is that his happy feet, when he's not familiar with the playbook, leads him to erratic throws, which leads him to look worse in game film than I gave him credit for. So the fact that he's trying to do something and make a play is what makes his erraticism and lack of touch, and which he still has to, he definitely needs to learn. By the way, you don't have to throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball at all times. You can throw the changeup or the curve as long as it gets to the receiver. That takes time to develop. It will also take time for him to develop in McDaniels' system, which is one of the most comprehensive and hard offensive systems to go through, which means anybody that comes in here is going to take time for them to develop. Richardson is going to need at least 2 or 3 years. And the reason why I didn't want the Raiders to have that is because we've already alluded to the fact that Garoppolo historically with the Niners, I almost called them the Giants. I have Jack Kenna on the mind. With the Niners, has not been the most dependable quarterback as far as staying in there and being non-injured. Is it a Niners thing with their offense, with the Shanahan-esque guys that were there, or is it something else? We'll see this year if it's more of the McDaniels, which has a quicker release, boom, 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 throw darts to the guys that were there, whereas San Francisco had a more of a dynamic, double reverse option wide, throw back, they have a really unique, Shanahan playbook as well, which is unique for them. So we'll see if it was a Niner thing or if it was just a Garoppolo thing, being the fact that he just got injured way too often. If you can get rid of the ball quicker, hopefully that'll be a godsend, and Garoppolo won't be on the IR come, the second quarter of the first preseason game. And again, I say this facetiously, but I am knocking wood.
Heidi, what are your thoughts on this?
I actually like Richardson. I don't like moving up to get him, but if he fell to 7, I would be okay with them taking him. We really need a cornerback, so I wouldn't mind seeing them, get a cornerback instead and taking a quarterback farther on in the draft. I know that you've already heard me talk about how much I like Jay Kaner, and he would be available much farther down in the draft.
Come on, where the hell are you from? Come on,
from Anchorage, Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska.
You're freaking lying. You're a lying sack of poo-poo.
Redding, California.
via.
I might be a little biased. I mean, I did live in Fresno for about 25 years. But there's a reason I'm biased, because he actually would make a good selection farther down in the draft. And he's somebody that could learn the system, and he could develop. But I actually would be okay with Richardson. That's just my thoughts.
Well, as far as the number 7 overall pick, the guy I really like is Christian Gonzalez. I will be just very brutally honest. He reminds me a lot of a young man that we got out of the University of California back in 2003 by the name of Nnamdi Asomugha. He's got the same size. He is a shutdown corner, which is certainly what the Raiders need and haven't had for quite some time. But you got to get that playmaker on the back end, a true playmaker, and that's something that the Raiders have missed, and they haven't had really at that cornerback spot since all the way back to Charles Woodson. So,
and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. I know that Witherspoon is probably a better man-to-man corner, but Gonzalez has got the elite speed and the size, and can be that truly shutdown guy. You can put him on an island against whoever the best receiver is that the opponent has to offer, and just shut that part down. And I think that's really what the Raiders need, and I think that's what the Raiders want. The other quarterbacks in the draft, I know that the word was put out that they were interested in 2 quarterbacks, and they never said who those 2 were. I think they were probably Young and Stroud. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Richardson or Levis, either one, is a franchise guy. I could be totally wrong, but I think that probably the most successful quarterback, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I think the most successful quarterback out of this draft is not going to be one of those top 4 guys. I think somebody's going to emerge from somewhere middle level or further down the draft, or it could be Hendon Hooker, who is going to be a better quarterback, I think, than any of those top 4 guys. That's just where I'm going to plant my flag.
All right, and Rob Leonard is the new defensive line coach. He replaces Frank Okam in the Patrick Graham system. Coming over from Baltimore, where he coached the linebackers in 2022. Leonard had a successful track record of improving the defensive line while he was in Miami. And previous to that, he was with the New York Giants for 6 seasons. So what do you guys say about that?
Well, I like the signing. I know that the Raiders were going to make some type of move on defense. Somebody had to take the proverbial fall. I think that Patrick Graham certainly is going to get at least 1 or 2 more years. But Okam really just didn't do much with the defensive line, despite the fact that they really didn't give him a lot to work with. And I think there was some progress made by the 2 young draftees last year. And of course, I hope to see them really make a big step forward this coming year. And of course, we're talking about Butler and Farrell, not Furl, Farrell. And we will see if we can add to that and continue to increase the depth and the productivity. But I like the signing. I'm hoping once again that this is just another puzzle piece, and something that we can begin to put something together that's going to be sustainable.
I think the fact that Leonard worked with Graham in New York speaks volumes. That, Graham has somebody that already knows what he's trying to do, whereas and our defensive line was very suspect last year, aside from I don't know, some guy by the name of Crosby. And having somebody that knows the system of what the whole DC is trying to implement it at obviously the stalwart position of going after the quarterback. When you have 2 guys that are in sync and know what it needs to go from there, then that would be something that would be beneficial for the entire defense. And there was also a comment made about the Witherspoon being an Illini corner. Hobbs was an Illini cornerback. And I believe our defensive back coach is also from the University of Illinois. There's that continuity there. So I think the Raiders are trying to bring in people that know the system or are familiar with each other in that respect. So if they can get that, if you already have a good mix and you have the brotherhood established, or where your brothers along the offensive line and defensive line and are supposed to be where. That's one of the things that it doesn't take as many times to, or as all, I should say, as long to gel if you already know what you were supposed to do. Obviously, for folks that are new to the system, it's going to take a little bit of time. But again, if you already know what the cake is supposed to taste like, then you can be there to help make the cake that much better. That might be a crappy analogy, but it at this point, I ate a lot because my son was over making a lot of food, and yeah, I had my birthday cake about a little bit late because we celebrated my birthday and Easter at the same time. So yeah, I'm stuffed. So there you go.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, late.
Well, yeah, thanks again for all that. But yeah, that's a bunch of food for thought. And that pun is definitively there. Food for thought.
Nice.
And additional food for thought, this is one of Tom's talking points for tonight. There has been a lot of talk recently about the Raiders becoming the Patriots West or the New England Raiders. In all, so far, there are 12 former Patriots on the roster. In addition to GM Dave Ziegler, head coach Josh McDaniels, and new coaching assistant Danny Amendola, here's the list. Quarterbacks Jimmy Garoppolo and Brian Hoyer, wide receivers Jacoby Myers, Philip Dorsett, Isaiah Zuber, and DeAndre Carter, running back Brandon Bolden, and fullback Jakob Johnson, offensive lineman Jermaine Illuminor and Justin Herron, defensive end Chandler Jones, and defensive tackle Adam Butler. What say you, gentlemen?
Well, not all those guys are going to make the team. But I think it's great that we have so many of them in there for the foundation. This is going to really challenge a lot of those new rookies coming in. It's going to show them the way. It's going to show them the pathway and how to put together a team. This is something that this Raiders organization has really not had in a long time, and that's a team. So you bring in all those guys who are familiar with the Patriots system. McDaniels is putting together his team. And again, some pieces can be added or can be subtracted, but the bottom line is there's got to be a foundation to it. And the foundation is here. Now, like I said, not all these guys that are brought in from New England are going to make the team, but probably at least half of them will. The other half, I think, are going to be strongly challenged by the new group of rookies coming in, which is exactly what this team needs, is younger players who are talented. We have to have a lot more talent on this roster, and I think it's a good mix.
Yeah, I mean, as I stated, if you have a core that knows what's going on, and by the way, I thank you for reminding me that we got Herron, who was a very capable offensive lineman for the Patriots, and he got injured the very first game he played. I think he had an ACL. We just got him that week, put him into the lineup at guard or tackle, and he went out with an ACL, and that sucked. And I forgot that he was there. If he's still on our roster, he's another guy that knows the system. Yeah. He knows what the offense line coach, who is a Patriot disciple, knows what he's trying to do. Again, familiarity with knowing how to run the system is going to be beneficial for them. By the way, I like them called being the Radiates because you have idiots and Raiders in there. No, the Radiates just has a little bit more ring to it, because then and all of the people that hate it will take the idiots portion of the Radiates and just run with it. And if they're right, they're right. But I want to see what we have. That's why I said give the guy 3 years to turn this around. You don't just start something, and if it takes 3 years to process, and if you pull the plug after a year and a half, like Denver did the first time around with McDaniel, you don't see what the fruition is. And as I remind people, the big core of the Denver team that went to the Super Bowl a few years later was the core that was drafted by young Josh McDaniels.
I will also say that the give the coach a year, 2 years, and then fire him. That's been the Raider way for the last 20 years.
Exactly. That's right.
I just really wish it wasn't a Patriots coach that they're finally letting him ride it out on. Anyone
Well,
but the Patriots.
well, it could be
Well,
could have been me.
if you're gonna emulate a franchise, at least emulate a franchise with, okay, having here's the addendum to that, with a jackhole prima donna who got every call in the book at quarterback, who was a decent quarterback but got every call right, and then got so bigger than thou, that he was bigger than the team itself. Okay, you remember the first two wins that the Patriots had in their Super Bowl quote unquote dynasty were by 3 points off the leg of their kicker. Okay, and then the rest of them they got a little bit more at ease in getting to the game and being a little bit more dominant. You take that kicker away, Vinatieri, they're not that team.
Well,
Okay,
that first Super Bowl, they shouldn't have been there anyway.
true. I'm just saying. I'm just saying it should have been. I don't know, some team by in Oakland, but can't remember
Yep.
what that was. But give the meal a chance to be cooked, and don't pull the chef halfway through the meal. A lot of food for thought tonight.
Yep. Let him
What are
serve
your
up the
further
dish.
thoughts, Tom?
Huh?
What
Sorry.
are your further thoughts?
Further thoughts. Well, the thing is, we're still putting this thing together. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of people that are throwing in the towel, and they're saying, you know what, I've had it with this Raiders organization. We've waited for too long. I've had it. I'm tossing all my gear in, and I'm moving on. I'm just totally frustrated, and I get it because again, I think when the team first came in, they were really hitching their wagons to Derek Carr. They really thought, okay, we made the playoffs in 21. And we've added some really talented pieces. They had their chips all in. They thought, well, we can not only make it to the playoffs again, back to back for the first time in 20 years, but we can make a little further push. I think that they really believed that at the beginning, but things really went off the rails quick. And it got out of control before they really had a handle on things. And all of a sudden, they realized they weren't as talented as they thought. And again, we just got to start building this thing over again, and I think they're off to a good start. But again, the proof is in the pudding. They're going to have to really come out strong. I think they're going to have to win 3 of their first 4 games to get off to some type of start. Of course, we haven't seen the schedule yet. We don't know what it's going to be like. We don't know if Renfro's still going to be around. We don't know if Jacobs is still going to be around. The injury history with the quarterbacks, we don't know, and we still don't know who's going to be added as far as the draft goes. So there's a lot of things up in the air. There's a lot of plates spinning right now. We just don't know exactly where that's all going to land.
All right, so let's talk about the Raiders in free agency. Do we like the move so far? And has the front office done enough?
Jack, what do you think?
I knew you were going to say, "Hey, let's set him up for failure first." Do I like everything? No, I don't. I don't like everything, but I do like the fact that they're getting into a position of being what a modern, and I do stress the term modern NFL team has been for, I don't know, since the 1990s. Okay, the Raiders have always been one of those teams with Al Davis as their patriarch, and the way that they did things. So it was 31 NFL teams in the Raiders. The Raiders were one of the only teams that didn't go into a scouting combine with all the other teams. They did it by themselves. And they had some good people doing their jobs, and they had some real friggin' I can't even say the name on a show that I'm not supposed to cuss. They were scouts because they were former Raiders that were given a job by Al. And I know who the dead weight is based upon information I've had from people that I won't say. There's a lot of dead weight there. And the the Raiders have finally come into the modern age of doing things by computer, by there's just so many things that they weren't doing, and now they're doing it. And again, I get it, and I'm with you, Heidi. I said, gosh darn it, why do we have to do things the way they did in New England? Well, as I said before in the show, everybody's like saying, well, the Patriot way doesn't work. It hasn't worked for Romeo Crennel. It didn't work for Bill O'Brien. It didn't work for Charlie Wise, and it didn't work for Matt Patricia, and go on, and Eric Mangini. It didn't work for them. So the Patriot way didn't work. It didn't work because they didn't have the friggin' players. And it didn't work because the owners that had them wouldn't allow them to implement things as they saw. Okay? It didn't work. And they got their plugs pulled quick, to include Josh McDaniels in Denver. Okay? So I'm saying allow the person that's at the helm to go through and try to get the system to a point where it actually might start to work. Okay? Again, do I like everything that's been done? No. I do like the fact that, we got rid of Carr after 9 years of saying, oh, well, he's our savior, pun intended. And he's going to do this for us. And it's not Derek Carr. It's the defense and it's the offensive line. And he doesn't have any people to throw to again and again and again. And I took it year and year and year. And I like the guy. He's a great role model to a point. But he's also that guy that says, well, if you ain't going to do it my way, I'm going to take my football and I'm going home. Okay? He's a baby at times. And it's been brought out that way. And when you have to have your brothers push your agenda on social media because you don't have the backbone to do it at all, that also tells me some other things. Derek, may you have a good future in New Orleans, and I think he will because that team is built to be a better team. But you know what? I don't want to hear that name anymore. Darren Waller, I'm glad that we got rid of because the guy was a cancer. He didn't do things the way that I would have wanted to have done. And we're moving around. We're taking out pieces. We're getting younger. We're getting more available. We're getting more cogs to the whole machine. And this is where the machine is the sum of all parts is better than one individual portion of the parts. And I think we're actually becoming that way. It'll take some time. And I know that I preach patience. I'm friggin' old with a lot of health conditions, and I'm hoping that I actually see some fruition before they put me in a friggin' box. And I'm hoping it happens soon. But I'm willing to at least let it happen. There is still conjecture that Josh Jacobs might not be here. There's still conjecture that Hunter Renfrow might not be here. And to be honest, it makes sense that Hunter Renfrow is going to be let go because they already got the Hunter Renfrow that knows the system. And that is Jacoby Myers with Philip Dorsett as a tag along. I don't think Keelan Cole is going to make this team. He's there because he knows the system in case of injury. Okay, but they got a lot of people that they're bringing in to do the parts, and I think Hunter Renfrow will probably make a good piece for somebody else at a price that the Raiders want. The Raiders got draft picks.
You're right. I think Hunter's going to be gone. I think he's going to get traded. I think Josh is going to get re-signed. I think right now the Raiders are letting other teams do the work. They're letting the other teams do the heavy lifting and saying, okay, what are you willing to offer? And if the offer is not too high, they're willing to go in and match it. I don't think, based on the way running backs are paid, I don't think that Josh is going to be able to command $16, $17 million. Now, I think he might end up somewhere in the $14, $15 million range. I think some teams wanted to offer that, and the Raiders want to see who's going to offer that first or give up the 2 first-round draft picks. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that he'll re-sign and be with the Raiders at least one more year, probably at a $14 to $15 million price tag.
And I can also see Hunter Renfrow being moved, especially come draft time, either in a position to get the Raiders moved up in the draft or moved back for additional players for additional draft spots. But I could definitely see Hunter going elsewhere, and which I don't like. I really like Hunter. He's a great player. He's a great teammate. But they've set it up so that he definitely could move on to another team and be successful for that team. Jacobs, I know the Raiders really do like Jacobs. They want to hold on to him. That doesn't mean they'll hold on to him long term, but I do think that they are going to hold on to him for this year, maybe another year or two. And, 2 or 3 years from now, who knows? They could be moving on from a lot of other people, no matter how much they like from them. But the moves so far in free agency, I make fun of the Jacoby Myers pickup. I actually like that one. I really do. He made a really boneheaded mistake in the game against us. But overall, he's a good player, and he's going to be able to contribute a lot to the team. The running back market
Mac Jones should have made that tackle. That's on Mac Jones. He should have made that tackle. Instead, he got destroyed.
He got straight armed to the next zip code. It was beautiful.
Yes, he did.
But overall, I'm not thrilled with free agency, but what moves did we really expect them to make? I mean, did we expect them to sign somebody for $30 million a year for, as a wide receiver or something? No. They had so many holes to fill. That's what they're doing it with low budget players and bringing them in to compete for roster spots. And with the draft, how many draft spots do we have? 12 or 13 or something?
Right now we have 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So gonna have 12 rookies coming in from the draft, and they're gonna be competing for those spots.
I don't think so, honey. I think we're gonna have about 8 or 9, because I think that of those extra picks, a lot of those picks are going to be used to maneuver. Now we'll get some more picks for some of the maneuvering, so maybe we'll still wind up with 10 picks overall. But of those 12 picks, I think at least three of them are going to be used to maneuver. We might get some picks back into maneuvering, but I figure at least maybe 8 or 9 picks overall will be because of what the maneuvering is for the other 3. My opinion, I might be wrong, but I think that's the way it's been done in New England, and I think that's what will be done again.
Yeah, but those rookies, they are going to be competing for those roster spots against those free agent signings that we've had so far, and not all of them are going to make the team, like Tom said. Not all the rookies are, and not all the free agent signings are. So there's still a lot of progression that needs to be made as far as what the roster looks like by the start of the season. What we see right now is nothing compared to what is going to be on the field come opening day.
The curious thing, I think, is going to be if they take a few of those picks and package them up to move the Raiders back into the back end of the first round, or maybe get a pick somewhere between the 7th pick and the 38th pick to possibly draft Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker's from, again, I don't get a chance to read a lot of stuff because time limited, of not being able to look at the internet during my time at work. I know that a lot of people have jobs where they can actually look at the internet at work. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. But I've heard a lot of things. It's like Hendon Hooker is the top of the next line. Right. It's Hooker, it's Haney, and it's McKee, and it's Tooney, I believe is the kid's name. They're the next of the guys. And I actually think that if you look at who will be the best of the quarterbacks this year, like Tom was saying, I don't think the big 4 are going to be, especially early on, are going to be the guys that just get a lot of wow. I think that it'll be that second tier quarterbacks to get a chance to learn under a system that might even be better for them, that will actually have sustainable progress as far as who is the better quarterback.
Before Hooker was injured, he was talked about as being possibly the second or third best quarterback in this entire draft, which I totally agree with.
I agree. And yet the best thing about Richardson is he's all of that in a biscuit as far as ability projected, and he's 21 years old. That's
a lot of upside. A lot of upside.
Like I said, upside to the moon. He's 21 with all of that athletic ability, and what they're thinking is he's actually got a brain on that as well. Okay, where that he's just not all bluster and capabilities, a la I won't say names. I don't want to be called anything but what they are. But a guy who has ability and actually can run the plays. Okay. So we'll see. The knock on Hooker, and I've given the knock on Hooker for this, is that his offensive system at Tennessee is a joke. As far as it was very easy. Okay. If I had the ability at that age, I could run a Josh Heupel system at Tennessee because it's quick, it's just very basic, and there's not a lot of elaboration to it. Now, if Hooker can come in and wow the coaches, then yeah. And again, we got to see what they have upstairs. That is going to be the most important thing. Is if a quarterback is drafted by the Raiders, he's going to have to wow them with his prowess as a mental capacitor of taking plays, putting them back, spitting them back out to him, and showing that he understands what the hell he's talking about.
But I think the barometer of this team is going to be, how can the second-year players, the ones that they brought in as rookies last year, how can they develop in addition to the 3 or 4 starters that they desperately need to come out of this year's draft? Now, even if they draft Hendon Hooker, he's not going to be the guy. He's not going to be relied on as a starter, which, again, is why I think you don't draft a quarterback at number 7 overall. Anybody that's drafted that high, the clock's ticking, and they're going to have to be rolled out onto the field prematurely, and that can make or break a quarterback, particularly one that's developing that has a small sample size like Richardson has. I think that too much is going to be expected of him to come in and instantly make plays against world-class defenses, which he hasn't really seen a lot of. So again, I don't believe that any of those quarterbacks are going to make that big of a splash. Hooker coming in, if he's drafted at the tail end of the first round or in the second by the Raiders, can sit back and develop and then be ready to go in year 2.
And on that note, I need to bid myself good night from you gentlemen. Thank you for having us on, Captain. Really enjoyed this. Always a pleasure talking football with you, Raiders football with you. Always a pleasure talking Raiders football with you, Tom.
Captain and Heidi, I'm going to have to do the same thing, but once again, I want to thank you, Jack, for having us on. Once again, you can find Heidi and me on the Only Nation podcast. You go onlynationpod.com. We take fan mail, and we take phone calls as well, not live, but that may be something we'll work on later on down the road. But again, we're just happy to be with you tonight, Jack, and with all your fans, and we look forward to putting something together as the Raiders continue to put something together in the 2023 season.
Thank you. I'd love you too.
And hopefully I
Happy
didn't
Easter.
interject so much that we went off the time script, because again, I know that was that variable you weren't counting on, was the ad libs that I gave you guys for the points, and hopefully we went over all the points.
You were perfect.
Listen, if we can just talk Raiders football, script or no script, it doesn't matter. Raiders is what it's about.
All right.
Tom,
Thanks again.
Thanks again to you both. Remember, it's the Only Nation podcast. People were asking where to find that. Before you guys go, make sure, if you can, put it in the freaking comment section somewhere, or maybe even in the private chat, so I can push it to everybody so they can find you. If you're not already following them, okay, then shame on you. And yeah, Doc Cabral says Heidi J is not perfect. That's true. Doc Cabral knows me for 30-something years. He knows I'm not perfect. I might be a perfect ass at times, but that's about the only time that the words perfect and me go together. But
your
I put my
performance
Twitter.
was perfect. Your performance was perfect.
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the accolades there.
All right. Well, listen, you all have a great evening. Look forward to getting it again with you all really soon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Hey, good night, Tom. Good night, Heidi. Appreciate you. And remember, Only Nation podcast with T3 and Kevlar Prom Dress, Heidi. Hopefully Tom will get that. Yeah, there you go. Hopefully Tom will get that into the. I don't know. Did he put it in? Oh, I see something in private chat. There you go. Okay, here it is. Okay. Heidi gives us this. Okay. And I will put it under comments. Heidi brought this, so I appreciate that. This is from Heidi. Make sure you are checking out the onlynationpod.com. onlynationpod.com. That is how you get to the podcast as well. Only Nation Podcast, onlynationpod.com. And if you want to see more of T3, then here is his moniker, T3 Sports 703. That is for Tom Jones. Obviously, you can see Heidi, especially during the year when we do our Ladies' Night podcast with Heidi and Peggy Holmes, DC Wench, Kevlar Prom Dress. Love the ladies. And I swear, I try not to talk as much when I'm with the ladies because, again, it's their show. It is their show, and I like to just moderate. I try to anyway. Sometimes I get full of myself. That's that perfect, as Doc Rawls saying, Jay ain't perfect in anything. Well, I can be a perfect ass. Remember, onlynationpod.com. I'm putting that up. onlynationpod.com for the Only Nation podcast. And you can find T3, a.k.a. Tom Jones. You can find him at T3_sports 703. And you can find, obviously, Heidi, Kevlar Prom Dress on our shows and more. And we'll have them back. We'll have them back. They're welcome anytime. Now, having said that, since they had to run, because Tom has his gig early in the mornings. I have my gig early in the mornings too, but I'm gonna suck it up, okay? And Heidi has stuff to do all the way the hell out in Anchorage. That's why I was giving her a bunch of crap about it. You might be a little biased about that quarterback from Fresno State because, Heidi's from Redding and Fresno areas. Just a little biased. But you know what? I like him. He's a good quarterback. The Raiders are going to get a backup quarterback in this draft. The question is who it's going to be. I heard months ago it was supposed to be McKee. That information was from a couple months ago. Maybe they changed their thoughts. Maybe it's all a big smokescreen. Maybe we don't know what's going on. Okay. And again, yes, and I'm going to say it right here to my gentleman in crime, OG, and Jack Kenna. I see a lot of the stuff that you're writing. I'm not gonna repost it, man. I'm not. I mean, it's like anytime you call the coach McShitnuts, I'm not putting that up there. I know you got a problem with McDaniel. I know you do, Jack. I got it. Okay. And then, OG is not very happy with stuff. I get it. And I am not beating the drum that you have to fart rainbows and unicorns and be happy with everything. But you at least got to see it come to fruition. Okay? At least see what you got. We stuck with Derek Carr for 9 friggin' years. 9 friggin' years. But I'm not going to have you call McShitnuts on my show. Sorry. You can put it in the comments all you want. But I do like this comment. And, you know, Ed's like me. We're older, but we're patient. We're patient. If you can't support the Raiders, find somebody else to support and bring down. Seriously. And again, you don't have to fart rainbows and unicorns. You don't. But I try to look things analytically. I do. I try. I got you, Jack. Go ahead and put those comments. I see them. I'm just not putting them up here. There you go. One thing I want to say about this as well is that we are broadcasting on the Elite Superfans Facebook page, the Elite Superfans Facebook page. And from what I understand, you can give support through, like, what was it called? Like pennies? Or you can ring the bell, or there's ways to support the Elite Superfans page by giving. It's a support thing. It's a like a bonus thing. I don't recall what it is, and I apologize. But if you are watching on the Elite Superfans Facebook page, go ahead and show support for the group, because we got a lot of people there. Elite Superfans page, we are having a huge party put on by the Elite Superfans group in Kansas City. Information for that party is on. If you go to the picture, I have a couple different pictures. You see that little QR code? Get the QR code and come on over. If you're in Kansas City, there ain't nothing to do in Kansas City other than to eat. Why not eat with some of your friends? With friends of all walks of life from all the teams. We have a big party. It's going to be fun. Get your tickets. Get your tickets today. Hit the QR code or hit the link that's in the description. And again, we'll see what happens. Okay, Ed Winchell says we're going to go into the playoffs. Jimmy Farrell says he's stoned. It's possible that both are true. It's possible that we are going to the playoffs and Ed's stoned. Ed comes in, nope, not high enough. Not high enough. But that's an opinion. And this is what I see. Remember, you got to keep getting better. You got to keep getting better, right? You got to keep ascending. Last year, McDaniels, a.k.a. a name that Jack calls him, which I'm not going to give him anything more, we were 6-11. The year prior, we were a playoff team, but it was smoke and mirrors. We could have, if we didn't win all of those close games that we did the year previous, we wouldn't have been in the playoffs. The record was, it was smoke and mirrors, man. It was a big push at the very end. A big push at the very end, and the Raiders got to the playoffs. And we eventually lost the AFC champions in the Bengals. And what could have happened had Derek Carr actually found Waller with a touchdown pass instead of throwing a pick at the very last play? Seriously. Smoke and mirrors. That's the way I think of it. Here we go. Ed says that we're not going to go to the Super Bowl. I agree. It's going to take a while. And Kev, I like this. Some people are afraid the Raiders will succeed without Carr. They don't want to face reality. I think that we're going to succeed without Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to succeed in New Orleans because they will play to his capabilities, and they have a better team intact right now because they got a better defense right now. But I think it's going to work for him, and good for him. Let's see what we had there. Matt throwing it. Hey, Jack Kenna, did your coach, was he the defensive coach? Because apparently you're talking about how many double-digit leads he lost. That's on the defense, isn't it? That's on the defense. And an offense that really couldn't keep a lead, too. Just the way it is. And Doc Cabral says maybe Belichick's on his way out. And I don't agree with this as well. Jimmy might have to work on his scrambling. If the offensive line is better, and remember, and I appreciate Tom reminding me that Matt Caron was brought in and lasted not even a whole game. He was out the first friggin' quarter he played. I remember, it's like, we just picked him up, and he's gone. He's gone, and it sucked. Oh, Jimmy Farrell. See, here's some sports talk. The Phillies did well until the ninth inning today, and then the Reds turned the tables because the Phillies won yesterday in the ninth inning by scoring 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth. They hadn't done anything the entire day, and they win it 3-2 yesterday. And today the Reds said, we're going to do the same thing to you. We're going to win in the top of the ninth, and then we're going to blow your ass out in the bottom of the ninth. 2 strikeouts and a fly out to center. Anyway, this is the portion of the show. And again, I want to thank Tom Jones, aka T3. I want to thank Heidi Kevlar Prom Dress for coming in. Oh, Jack. Oh, I like this. Jack says this. Okay. Here, I'm going to put this up because I want to talk about that. Okay. If I can put it up here. It should be up in a minute. It's a little slow. Come on. There we go. Come on, it's supposed to show. There it is. Maybe it'll come up. It's slow. 1 second, Gabe. Gabe is going to come in. I don't know if it's going to show. The infamous Renfro and Adams running into each other in Kansas City. In Kansas City, they ran into each other. Did McDaniels do that? I don't seem to recall McDaniels being on the field for that. I might have missed it. I was at the game in the first row. But if 2 receivers run into each other, it's because they run into each other. How's that on the coach? How's that on the coach? Seriously. Anyway. I'm going to bring in Raider Mode. Then I got Gabe coming in, and then hopefully it won't be as negative. But I also got the The beard puller. I see you. I see you. Somebody with a nice beard. He's laughing. Good to see you as well, Daniel. Let's get this over with first. Let's bring in Gabe. Come on, Gabe. God, this system is slow as foxtrot today.
What's up?
I'm not gonna say.
Can you hear
Gabe,
me?
how you doing, brother? I'm sorry. My system it's lagging. It's lagging. I push stuff and it doesn't happen. Like for example, right now I'm dead. See, now I'm over there. It's slow. I need to reboot my computer. Gabe, how you doing, brother? Give me some of your best as to. And by the way, I was happy to see that you were on with Sneaky G and I said I will come in and say hello because it's cool to see you guys. And again, for those that want to have a different tune to conversation, if you know anybody that is a Giants fan, you got Gabe, who has his show, New York Giants News. He's a podcaster along with Sneaky G, who's with me on this network, the network that is currently running Northeast Streaming Sports Network, which is on Roku right now. So you got two Giants fans there, and I support them. I support them, and they support me. Gabe, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good. Just growing the YouTube channel. I'm at 70 subscribers right now. I'm hoping to get to 100 by the end of draft. So we're growing that right now and doing some draft stuff, looking into these draft prospects. And, I think some of these quarterbacks are a little overhyped, but I think there's some good players, mostly on the defensive side. This is a very defensive dominant draft, in my opinion. So pretty cool stuff right now. I did a wide receivers episode. I like Zay Flowers out of Boston College. He's going to be a very good NFL wide receiver. A lot of people underestimate him just because of his size. So I believe he's like 5'9", 5'8". But I think at Boston College he actually played the X, and a lot of people think he'll be. Thank you, Raiders 07. And also Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. He's gonna be. I'm hoping he'll slide to 25, but a lot of people are saying he's rising up draft boards. So he's gonna be a very good wide receiver in the NFL, and I'm very. Gabe, your voice is. Oh my gosh, Mike, Sarah. You know what? That's probably the nicest thing you've said to me, which is actually really sad.
I was actually going to say that, and you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, that's pretty nice, Mike. That is. That's positive and uplifting. So go ahead. But yeah, so Zay Flowers?
Yeah, he's out of Boston College. A lot of this, it's a very slot-heavy wide receiver draft. There's not a lot of X receivers in the draft. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's a slot wide receiver guy who's really good in the slot, but the Giants' biggest need right now is an X receiver, and so unfortunately, it doesn't really match up with the draft. However, Quentin Johnson is an X receiver. He is going to be, he's the biggest. He's the biggest name wide receiver in the draft, and a lot of people have him going as high as like 11 and then as low as like 25 to the Giants. So there's a very broad range in where he could go. But I think the Giants would prefer to take a receiver first round. It's just with the value matching up. They don't want to reach on a wide receiver like they did with Kadarius Toney. But I think they put themselves in a position where they don't have to reach on a wide receiver. However, it'd be nice if they could get one round one and the value matches up. But,
hey, I'm going to put this up real quick as well. Our shipmate that is the Commanders fan, haven't heard. And again, thank you there, Matt. That's he hasn't come into the show in a long time. Do you hear from him?
Yeah, that's not just you guys. He's been a little quieter, like just everywhere, like Sneaky's podcast, kind of everywhere. Same with Browns by Jacob, if you're wondering about him.
I was definitely wondering about Browns by Jacob as well.
So a lot of the Commanders fan, WTF. He plays he plays like basketball like on a like really high level, like travel and stuff. He also played football this fall. So
Life gets in the way. I get it.
yeah, so he's been busy recently, but what's the recent buzz out of the Raiders? I mean, are you guys thinking about trading into the first round to select like a Hooker or McKee kind of prospect or?
Well, that's the consensus is that that the Raiders are going to either trade up, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with, but there's conjecture that the Raiders are going to trade up to 3 or 4. I think that, but actually the Colts, I think, who owns the 4th pick, might trade up to 3 just to make sure that the Raiders don't get the 3 pick. So
Yeah.
there's talk of movement at the number 3 position for a quarterback with between the Raiders as well as the Colts, and that's the conjecture that the Raiders really like Will Levis. And the smoke screen on, like I said, Richardson's going to be a fantastic quarterback eventually.
Yeah.
If you can take him and groom him and make him what he can be, he might be the best quarterback of all of them, but it's going to take years to find out. Okay.
He has the highest ceiling out of all of them.
Yeah.
However, he's not, in my opinion, the safest prospect in this year's draft or this year's quarterback crop is CJ Stroud. That is the safest QB you can get in this year's draft. But all of them come with their own, every prospect. Something I've like seen with every prospect I've watched and seen stat wise and stuff like that is every prospect comes with their own concerns. Everyone does. They all have issues. You're never going to get a groomed product in the draft. I mean, okay, maybe that's not necessarily true, but they all have their weaknesses, is what I'm trying to say. They all have their issues. So, like, Jalen Carter, some people are concerned about his character issues. And, Anthony Richardson, his accuracy. So there's always, a problem with each prospect. It's just how big that issue really is, how teachable it is, kind of things like that. But I'm interested to see how this draft falls. I think there's a lot of possibilities. And the interesting thing is there going to be that run of quarterbacks 4 picks in a row in the first round? Because then that leads prospects like really good prospects to fall to pick 7, for example, to the Raiders. To have your options wide open as possibly getting one of the best prospects that's not a QB. So
yeah, that's what I'm hoping is that there will be a bunch of people moving up to 3 and 4, which means that the first 4 picks will be quarterbacks. And that means that at 5, 6, or 7, you're going to have people like Carter or the kid that was the edge out of Texas A&M or Texas, one of those Texas guys. I can't remember his name. Tyree Wilson, I think is his name. Yeah, people like
he's
Carter,
an edge. Yeah,
Tyree Wilson. Yeah, people like Witherspoon or Gonzalez. You're going to have a pick of, or maybe Miles Murphy. Although I would take somebody else in front of them. Miles Murphy is going to be a decent pick, but I would take either a Witherspoon or a Gonzalez or a Carter or a Tyree Wilson at 7 before I went and got Miles Murphy. That's just me, though. But
I think the best value for the Raiders if they stay at 7 will be taking an edge rusher, someone to help out. Crosby, someone to help out Crosby on the defensive line. Kind of because he gets a lot of attention from offensive line. And if you can kind of get someone to help him, like a Jalen Carter would be big.
Yeah.
Khalid Kancey, I believe is his name, out of Pitt. He's a dominant
kid out of Pitt. He's and you know what? The one thing I like about Kancey is that he is a big immovable object.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raiders need somebody in the middle, which is something that they don't have. They can bring in. Actually, the kid Willis that they picked up from the Niners can be that other rush edge. They need somebody to clog the middle and push the middle, and Kancey would do that because the Raiders haven't had somebody do that since, I don't know, John Perella or the other big fat guy, Sam Adams. There was a couple big fat guys, and Perella wasn't a fat guy, but there was a couple big boys like Grady Jackson, John Perella, that was going in the middle and pushing the middle, which means he was pushing right up into the quarterback, and then the ends would come in and clean up. They haven't had that in years, and I would like to see that. So
in my opinion, he is the most underrated prospect in this draft. In my opinion, I think I think he's deserving of a top 15 pick, but I think he'll be a top 25 pick. I don't think he'll be top 15. But he's an interesting prospect. There's a lot of guys in this draft that have a really high ceiling, which I think makes it pretty fun. Like I said in the beginning, the defensive side of the ball is just dominant. But there's not a lot of there's not that Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson in this year's draft. Really, you're not going to really find that. But it'll be very interesting to see how the board falls. But Captain, what did you think of the OBJ signing? I mean, I thought it was ridiculous. The Ravens I think the Ravens gave him a blank check. No joke. I think they just gave him
I think, and other than hearing it from you guys, because I really wasn't paying attention, and I'm going to answer this, and I'm going to have to go. So I got Raider Mode and OG in the back wanting to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They're not fat; they're big boned, like Cartman on South Park. Thanks, Doc. That's true. And Matt Marinovich says, yeah, we drafted last year for that guy in the middle, but hopefully Neil Farrell Jr. will take that next step. But in answering Gabe's question, I mean, I think it was stupid for the Ravens to give, and again, basically a blank check to OBJ, who, if he comes back from his injury, great. But it's way too much money to put on a receiver who's recovering from an ACL, right?
Right. Yep.
It's too much money.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a wide receiver class this year that is phenomenal, plus you got a lot of wide receivers that are still out there that could be made available for less money, I think it's a splash signing. But will it ultimately help the Ravens out? I don't know. I think it's actually probably a stupid signing, but that's me being a hater.
I'm not. It wouldn't have been. So in my mind, OBJ. Again, this could go either two ways. It could look like a really good signing at the end of the year if he does come back. It's just you have to look at his resume. The last time he had a 1,000-yard plus season was 2019. With his first year with the Cleveland Browns. And the other thing is he's coming off of his second ACL tear. And the idea that you're going to give him $15 million guaranteed, you were bidding against yourself. The New York Jets were interested, and they were going to have him in for a visit tomorrow, but they weren't paying him anywhere towards $18 million or $15 million guaranteed. So it was just, in my mind, it seemed like they panicked because they saw he was visiting the Jets tomorrow, and so they upped their offer to get him to just not visit the Jets and take their offer. But if it works out, I'll tell you I'm wrong. I just think it's a huge risk for a player like OBJ in the situation. But he still does have that star potential, so we'll see how it works out. It's kind of one of those things that you just kind of have to wait and see. I just thought it was way too much money, and like I said, I think they were really just bidding against themselves there. I don't think the whole NFL kind of had the idea of that $10 million, $8 million range for OBJ, and the Ravens just completely. I think they wanted to have something to convince Lamar to come back. They wanted to have something to convince Lamar to play on the tag, and I think OBJ is kind of that guy to convince him to come back. And he's probably the only legit weapon that he's had his whole career in Baltimore. So with that, Captain, I know you got a lot of people to get to in the backstage.
No, sorry. Just let you know, partner. I got at least two.
I don't want to be like that other guy who comes on here and rambles on.
Well, they're
between.
saying that you're the Giants version of Ruben.
That's crazy because I literally okay. I'm just gonna get out of here before they continue complaining over here. I know Ed and Mike, Sarah. Have your mommies tuck you into bed tonight, and I appreciate.
No childish crap from either one of you. Okay, there you go. Gabe, take care, partner. Thanks again, and say hi. I don't know who the third guy was. Tell him I said hi to.
I will see you.
All right, take care. That's Gabe from the Giants. See that my computer is so freaking slow. I gotta bring Raider Mode in because he was here and then he came back out. It's not hate. It's not hate, OG, because I saw you doing this. I see you sitting by with your cigarette well in hand. Mode. Hopefully, I see him, but I don't see him because again, my system is so slow. There he is. Okay.
Hear me?
Yeah, I can see you now. And like I said,
Okay.
you got about 10 minutes because I want to make sure I give unless somebody else comes on. Somebody else comes on, we'll do it. Then I'll knock you down a little bit. I'll knock OG down a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
Fire
no problem.
away. What do you got for me tonight, there, Mode?
This week the Dodgers dropped a big series with Arizona. You're only able to take one game out of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said. I think that we're gonna have a rough season this year.
Yeah, well, the obviously the Phillies have they lost everything to the Yankees, or they they lost. Who they played? They played the Yankees. So they were 0-3 or 0-4 against the Yankees. They finally beat the Reds, but they couldn't get the sweep. So
Yeah.
I said the Phillies are in bad state as well. I think that they'll eventually get better, but at the beginning of the year it's rough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
It says F the Dodgers and go Giants. Yeah. So just again, I'm not putting it on because I'm being mean to Jack Hanna because he calls the coach McShitnuts. So that's just my way of saying that. But and Jared, try to come on, Jared. I'd like to hear from Jared. Get that golf report. I might have to put him on my phone because again, Jared seems to have issues getting into the show, so I might have to
Get him through the phone.
Yeah, I might have to get him through the phone, which means I'm going to have to put my volume up. Hang on a second here. I'm listening mode.
So far this offseason for the Raiders, it's been a little interesting picking up a lot of these current or ex Patriots players is pretty interesting. Yes, I understand McDaniels wants players that are already familiar with his system, but at the same time, I'm really hoping Ziegler and McDaniels actually listens to Mark when it comes to the draft and actually pick up a few good defensive players.
Okay, well, if Mark Davis is giving them football knowledge,
Which he shouldn't.
Which he shouldn't. But if Mark Davis is saying that we need help on defense, then yeah. But if that I agree with.
And I did see a report where it stated that Mark said that he would prefer to work on the defensive side more so than the offensive side.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm hoping he's not saying, "Hey, take this kid," because Mark Davis has not even a modicum of football knowledge. Sorry, Mark, if I'm being targeted by the Raiders and you don't like me anymore, and we're not best pals anymore. He doesn't have a modicum of football knowledge, really.
Yeah, no.
He's been decent as a corporate executive and owner, getting the Raiders to Vegas. Good on you for that, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hire people that know what the hell they're talking about.
And on
But
top of that, he saw what his dad envisioned, and he accomplished that.
yeah,
Mind you, his dad was trying to get a stadium for the Raiders in Los Angeles back in what, the 90s?
well, the Raiders moved to LA in like 82.
Yeah.
So he got the and he got Al got the Raiders to LA in 82, or maybe it was 81, but it was the 80s, 81, 82. By 83, we won a Super Bowl as the Los Angeles Raiders, and that was the year that because
Yeah.
they actually used to fly back and forth. They would still practice in Oakland and then play their games. So
Yeah.
they played all 16 games on the road because they were flying back and forth all the time. Mr. Davis was promised that the LA Coliseum would be redone, which was a bunch of crap, because then they pulled out it's a historical site and you can't make changes to it. Well, you know what? So was the Soldier Field, and they did things with Soldier Field. So it was the LA
And look at what.
And then he tried to move to Irwindale, and he got some money from that.
Yeah. And then not only that, but they wanted to say that the Coliseum's a landmark, but yet they're now starting to do renovations on it.
Yeah, but that's a bunch of crap. Again, I don't let Mark Davis do something that his father sometimes didn't do, is actually let people do their jobs. And I love Al Davis. I do. I loved Al Davis, but sometimes you need to, again, let people do their jobs. So,
yeah.
But, yeah. So give me another thought, because I'm going to turn it on to the negativity hour with OG. I'm sorry, OG. I had to. Oh, he flipped me off. Oh, can't show that on Roku. Oh my God.
I'm just hoping we have a good draft class this year. I'm hoping we do pick up our needs. And I'm hoping that the Kings actually make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay, well, that's a good. I know for a fact that my Flyers are not, so that's I'm good. My hockey season ends this weekend. It ends, and where I will be with your cousin, or with your uncle, in Texas, starting Friday night.
And I wish I had the money to go out there.
Yeah, well, sometimes I wish I had the money to. I'm just saying. I'll just leave it at that. Sometimes I wish I had the money too. Hey, Mo, thanks for coming in, brother, and say hi to everybody, and you take care as well.
Will do, Captain.
Be well. Hoorah. That's Raider Mode. And again, as stated, it's now time for me to turn over to the other old bastard on the show, who is 3 days. Boy, I wish it was 3 years. 3 days younger than me. So, and I make sure I say that just because I can. And remember, by the way, before you ask, yes, we are on Roku. We are on Roku. Okay, so I'm gonna bring my man, my shipmate, my buddy. God, it is still slow. I bring him in, and it takes a while for him to show up. How you doing tonight there, OG? Good to see you, brother.
What's up, old man?
I resemble that. What's going on with you, man?
First of all, you used the F and S word earlier. You used old B word earlier. You're messing up your own Roku.
No, I'm quoting. I'm quoting for, and I said the name Mick S word nuts.
No. And you also had said F and S a few minutes ago.
Did I say F?
Effing S. Effing S. You might want to go back and re-edit your stuff. See, here's the thing. I expect it to be Roku, so I'm not going to use harsh language if I can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if I said the F word, then shame on me. Did it slip without me even.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
You did just like 5 minutes ago.
If I said the F word, please put in the comments that Captain Jack dropped an F bomb.
You did.
I want to.
That's okay.
I thought I might have said freaking.
No.
Or frigging.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll see. If I said the F word, please put in the comments that I dropped an F bomb because I don't recall doing it. Go ahead there, shipmate.
All right. So you said something earlier that kind of ticked me off.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we're getting younger, blah, blah, blah. Brian Hoyer is getting mail from AARP. No, we're not getting younger.
And he is the
only guy out there who's walking with dinosaurs.
He is the only person that we've signed to free agency that is older than the person that he replaced. Look it up. He is the only person that we've signed in free agency that's older than the guy we've replaced. That is true.
Okay. Another thing is, I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused by your thumbnail. Like, are you making an announcement that I didn't know about?
No, it was a renewal. You know, I used the day.
You haven't talked about it.
I used it. No, I'm not talking about anything until things are done. But a renewal using today as Easter and renewal and the whole nice sunrise thing with a renewal of, and I did speak about the American Spring Football League and the old AFL logo because it is a renewal of a league that caters to its fans.
Right.
So no announcements made. It's just that I was just making an addition that I really can't wait for the American Spring Football League to kick off because it is a renewal using the renewal of the Judeo-Christian variety of Easter and Passover for today. That's where I got the picture. It was a nice picture of, you know, the Easter Sunday sunrise.
I was just a little confused because I was told not to speak about this.
No, it's a renewal. We know the American Spring Football League is coming in 2024, and we've been promoting it as something that we're really happy and excited about. Okay, and I'm sorry. Thank you for your anniversary. I said happy anniversary. Thank you, Hot Neil, for acknowledging the anniversary. But no, there's no announcements forthcoming. I'm looking forward to the American Spring Football League, and hopefully a renewal of a football league that will cater more towards the fans.
I look forward to this too.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be an amazing thing, but. No, man, I got nothing negative to say because part of me, okay, I do have negative stuff to say and I got positive stuff to say. Here's my negatives. I don't trust Josh McDaniels and I'm not going to use Jack Kenna's word for him.
And I appreciate that.
Even though I agree with those words. But I also got this thing in mind that maybe, just maybe, we got all these patriots in here to educate the other players on their ways, the scheme, what have you, and then build up rookies, put them in the system to understand this, and then next year put in more rookies to understand this, and maybe in 3 years we may have something great. When everybody's contracts are over, all the guys that they've signed up. But we've not brought in anybody awesome. We brought in mid-level players to maybe teach the scheme. That's my hope.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I don't trust Josh McDaniels. I never will. Dave Ziegler, I trust him a little bit, not fully,
Mm-hmm.
thinking he might be able to pick better because John Gruden was a joke.
That I agree with.
He did the first 3 rounds of picks and left the scraps, which were our better players, to what was that guy's name? Our past GM. What was his name?
Oh, the guy from ESPN.
Yeah.
Mayock.
Like he got the 3rd or 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks. Mike
Mayock.
Right. Gruden ran the first 3 rounds of picks. Mike Mayock had to go beg him to pick up Josh Jacobs. And otherwise, he was given the scraps. I'm sorry. You can sit there and blame Mike Mayock. Wrong. It was Gruden's picks. He was in charge, and Mike Mayock was his yes man. We did horrible under that regime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see what Dave Ziegler can do in this draft, because Josh McDaniels, I want to call him every other name, but isn't running the draft. Thank God. Let's see what they can do, but I'm going to tell you right now, we're either going to be really successful in 3 years. From now till then, we're going to be trash.
2, because we've already had a year of transition.
Yeah, he took a playoff team and turned it to garbage.
That playoff team was smoke and mirrors, brother.
Blah, blah, blah. You know what? That was another thing you said that really angered me.
What was it? It's the truth, though.
No, it wasn't. Rich Bisaccia and Derek Carr dragged this team to the playoffs because of all the adversity. No. And his team was ready to run through a wall from Bisaccia. No, don't give me that. These guys are
if he's such a great head coach, why isn't he being a head coach from somebody else?
Because he's older. You don't get those chances when you're older. That's how the NFL works.
That's not true.
That's how the NFL works.
No, that's not true.
Bisaccia and Carr dragged this team kicking and screaming through all the adversity to the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? One play changed everything. If they had gotten that win in Cincinnati, who knows what would have happened. But realistically, players will kill for a coach like Bisaccia. Players do not like coaches like McDaniels. I'm saying his name instead of calling what I want to call him.
You're saying it correctly. And
I got some other names for him, but I'm not using them because we're on Roku.
And I thank you. Okay. And by the way, Gabe, he was also the assistant head coach with the Raiders. So that's still not saying anything. If Rich Bisaccia was all that in a biscuit, he would have been a head coach a long time ago.
Why do players love him so much?
Because he's a player's coach. That doesn't mean that he still has the ability to do anything. A lot of players.
And you're sitting there saying that.
There are plenty of players' coaches that are loved by their players, but they suck as coaches. And by the way,
coming from a sour grapes point of view. If they had given him a chance, we would have been in the playoffs again last year with more talent.
When he was brought over from the Eagles to be the coach of the Chiefs, you said they don't do that in the NFL. Well, Andy Reid was brought over. He had experience, right?
Not as a head coach. He would have had head coach experience.
Andy Reid was coach of the Eagles for how many years? And he took
but Bisaccia, the players loved him, would have ran through a wall for him. And you know what? If we'd given Bisaccia a chance this year instead of going for the big shiny Nick Daniels, we would have probably done better than we did this year because we were horrible under. Look, this clown got rid of quarterback who went to the Bears and got Tim Tebow. This guy he sucks.
Okay. Well, if the guys that he drafted in Denver went to the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning.
Yeah, without him there.
Yeah, but he drafted those guys that were the core of the Broncos that went to the Super Bowl.
He didn't draft them. The GM drafted them. He coached them until he got fired.
You can't have it both. What you can't have it both
No,
ways.
the GM drafts the players, not the coach.
But you're saying that the team that he has now is because of his input, and then you're saying no, the guys that he had in Denver weren't his input. Which one is it?
I didn't say that.
He has something in his mind of what he wants to do, and
What the hell is it?
He tells the GM, "This is what I'm looking for," and the GM looks at the people that are best to put that onto paper or from paper onto the field. That's what a GM does. He takes the best available product that fit the mold of what the head coach wants to do. Because the head coach tells the GM what his vision is. It's up to the GM to make that vision happen with the players that are available in the draft. Same
The
thing.
GM decides with scouting of what we need, of a team needs. Okay? They pull those players. The head coach should not be in the decision making of what the team needs. The head coach should be in the running the team and making it work better. And here's the problem. The Raiders have screwed this up ever since John Gruden.
No, they screwed things up.
The
No,
coach.
they screwed things up ever since Tom Flores left the job. Because that's how long the Raiders have not had a good head coach.
Okay,
Period.
well, Al Davis was the GM until he died. Okay, point blank, period. That's the end of that. Mark Davis, he didn't know what to do. He hired Reggie McKenzie to get out of a bad contract. Good job. Got out of the bad contracts. Got rid of some great players. There it is. Then he brought in he eventually got to the point where he hired John Gruden and then Mike Mayock. John Gruden ran the team. Mike Mayock was his yes man. John Gruden.
Just like John Gruden ran the team and Allen was his yes man the first time around.
Right. But John Gruden decided the drafts instead of the GM, which is backwards. Okay? This time you hired a GM and a coach together. Hopefully the GM has the reign on who we bring in. Okay?
Yeah.
Hopefully. But Mark Davis is not he's a bad decision maker. Okay?
He's not involved in the process. It's Ziegler that's involved in the process.
If Ziegler's the GM, we'll see the draft this year and figure out if Ziegler's drafting. But when he hired Gruden and Mayock, Gruden ran the drafting for the first 3 rounds, and Mayock got left the scraps. The best picks were left with the scraps. Okay? Mark Davis needs to just stop, let his mother, he doesn't own the team, let his mother sell the team and get rid of him and all of them, get their money and go away.
Mm-hmm. OG, I got about 3 minutes before I gotta cut it.
That's right, I got 1 minute and I'm getting out of here. So
Okay. Well, as always, a pleasure to hear from you, sir.
you liar. I know I'm ticking you off.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to. Because you are a stalwart and a steady presence in the show. Why would I piss off people that are always here?
No, I'm saying I'm ticking you off because look, we've been fans of this team for 50 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ziegler and McDaniels have invested 1 year in this team. I've
Yeah.
invested 50. You invested 50. Here's my thing. When they screw up, I'm going to drag them.
Okay.
Okay. And I have the right to do that. If they do well, I'm going to salute them.
Good.
If we ball out this year, I'm be like, okay.
Let's find out what we got. And partner, I do got to go because I got to run the outro. Let's find out what we got. And again, no, I thank you for coming in, partner. You take care, and take care of yourself too.
I am. I'm just saying this. If they do good, if we do good this year, I'm gonna be like, hey, I was wrong. I messed up.
As long
as
if we do better, we got to do better. We got to get more than 6 wins. We got to do better.
Right.
We got to do
but
better.
if we suck out loud, yeah. I'm going to drag these guys. I am going to drag them to the slime and the mud. And I'm sick of losing, man. I grew up, and you grew up with this team winning when we first started following them. Mm-hmm. Just win, baby. Commitment to excellence. Uh-huh. We haven't seen that in 40 years. I think we're owed that.
I agree. Sencal wants to know how you been and when you're going to hop on with Graphic. And Georgia Patriot says, Cap, I got 30 seconds. I got to get out of here. OG,
no problem, bro.
Thanks,
all right.
Corner.
Have a good night.
Care. Good night to you as well, man. And I will be abridged. My outro is going to be quick as hell. I got to go. Take care, everybody. And I don't even have time for an outro. I really don't, because I'm at 1:59:50. So I got to end the broadcast. Y'all take care. We'll see you next time this Wednesday for the Wild Wild West show. Take care, everybody.